Do you feel, Mark?
Well enough to to say, hey, I'm in the Christmas spirit.
You're
it's
in
coming.
the Christmas spirit.
I'm in the Christmas spirit.
How can you be in the Christmas spirit this soon?
Oh well, I mean, I used to try to be
already?
I used to try to stay in the Christmas spirit all year round. But it's with work and things and everything, it's been harder and harder these last few years. But now, hey, I'm feeling really good. I hear the sleigh bells ringing.
I know it.
Jingling.
Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. We had we were able to visit all the family. We went to my sister's house, which means it didn't happen at my house, which is really kind of awesome because I didn't have to worry about prepping and all that stuff.
I had a great Thanksgiving. I brined a turkey.
Did you?
I did. I soaked it and brined it. Oh, I hear some giggling.
Uh-oh.
Is that Santa Claus? Who do we have here with us today, Mark?
We have Miss Nancy Tate, our state representative.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you, too. It's going to be an awesome show tonight.
Yeah.
I believe that there's some expected news.
I think so.
Out.
So, I mean, we always welcome Nancy into the studio. We love having her here.
Yep.
And but tonight is a special night.
It is a special night.
Nancy, why don't you go ahead and tell us why today is so special?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is always a great experience and great opportunity to communicate, obviously, to District 27, Meade County, and Hardin County.
Going strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, tonight I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that I am in the process of declaring my candidacy. Tonight is I'm declaring
You're
my
declaring
candidacy.
it.
I'm declaring my candidacy for the 2024 election. Thank
Right
you.
here on the
Thank
Meade
you
Truth.
very
You're hearing
much.
it here first.
Absolutely.
I am absolutely privileged to have had this opportunity tonight to actually hear you say that
Thank you.
and use this platform to launch this tonight. Mark, we've been doing this now. And Nancy, obviously, a lot of our success with this process has been because of your involvement, our involvement with the party.
Yeah.
But more so, we've really been involved in what you're doing. And Steve Meredith, the party itself, we got heavily involved in the last two elections, the gubernatorial election, the local county elections and stuff. And we have just had so much fun. I have in the process.
And just getting out, meeting people, and greeting them, and understanding, what makes them what makes them go to the polls, what doesn't, and it's so awesome to be able to hear that. Fancy Farm, 2 years.
The feedback, though, from you, just specifically, because this is about you, the work you're doing, and then to be able to convey that with commercial free, and you can come back and replay these anytime right here on the Meade Truth, and especially when Nancy's on. And you have done such a great job explaining the struggle, and not to compare you to our state representative, at the federal
level.
yeah,
Federal
but
level.
even when we get Brett Guthrie and he's exposing, these things that happen on the floor that you don't get to see, and just to get to describe it, and the way you describe some of the challenges that we faced over the last 2 years.
That's right.
Just in legislation, and the national challenges that we're up against just to control our own state.
Well, national things that are affecting local that you guys have to deal with on the state level. I think, speaking of that, what are some of the things coming up in the next session, and what are your plans for this year coming up? I mean, I know you're going to be running the campaign, but we have a big session coming.
Very long session.
Certainly, it's the long session. Yeah, we'll go into session on January 2nd. And so we'll be in session until April 15th this year because, of course, it's a budget year. And so, in the past, the legislators, for the most part, waited until they got into session to start preparing the budget. I can tell you that we've never stopped preparing the budget. We're constantly massaging those numbers, constantly getting a pulse of what we need in the state, what's happening at the federal level. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity to, again, represent Meade County and Hardin County in the 2027 regular session. And then, of course, looking forward to the future. But as we always know, infrastructure is very important to
Right.
all the counties.
Yep.
All
We ran on that with Troy's campaign. You
Absolutely.
cannot, if you don't have conservative growth, it gets out of, and it's like slapping a Band-Aid on something and you're not looking at the long-term solution.
Absolutely. So I always work on the budget. I'll always work on the road plan. We need to make sure that we have fresh water, fresh sewage. So those things will constantly be on our radar,
Yeah.
as well as to make sure that our education system is adequately funded and distributed appropriately across the state.
So I want to make sure our readers know that if you're tuned in live, we have the chat open. You can chime in, but I also got a dial-in number, 270-945-4414, if you want to ask Nancy a question. If not, you watch it. If you're one of those viewers that like to watch it late after we've already recorded, make sure you still chat us in there. I know Nancy will respond, or we'll respond back on
Yeah.
behalf of Mean Truth and get an
Absolutely.
answer. But if you're live, man, join us right now. You can dial in 270-945-4414. But I'm just
And we know it's connected because that was actually the phone that actually just rang in our ears.
okay. Got it.
Deal.
So,
Right.
but yeah, check us out. And if you're live tonight watching us, yeah, just call in and ask Nancy anything. We'll be glad to take your call. I know I've got a question to start you off.
Sure.
That's a long legislative session. We've seen what happens at the national level with the budget. They're still, kicking the can.
Sure.
Y'all got it really together. We had some challenges last year. What do you expect to walk into and work in our budget this year for the state level?
Yeah. So one of the things that I know is that we're in the healthiest position from a financial perspective in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. 3 years ago, 3 budget cycles ago, we had enough money in our reserve for 4 days. We have enough money in our reserve for like 60 days. And so we are so financially established. Now, of course, people want us to be able to use that money.
Right.
So for the last 3 budget cycles, we have actually generated more revenue than we've spent. That's unheard of. But we have absolutely declared that we're going to be fiscally responsible, and that gives us the opportunity whenever we have disasters like in Western Kentucky and in Eastern Kentucky that we can give them $250 million
Sure.
in order to get their infrastructure back in place.
And not only that, but you're keeping the pace with the promises made as far as lowering the taxes,
Absolutely.
which y'all have done. Obviously, they voted last legislation that's not going to happen for the next year.
Right, we did not meet all the safeguards
That's
that
right.
we needed to have in place.
So is it? It's still going? Is it going down in January?
It will go down in January.
it'll-
But what we're saying is the
4.5?
following year it's not going down because
That's
we
right.
haven't met the
We did not meet
thresholds.
the
Right.
thresholds. That's exactly
But
correct.
that's conservatism.
Absolutely.
That's
right.
It'll be a 1% decrease.
I'm sure Rand Paul is pretty happy about that.
Absolutely.
For-
We all should
yeah,
be.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're making sure that we're not like Kansas where they went too fast
Yep.
and ended up being where they weren't fiscally responsible. We want to make sure
Right.
that we are responsible, that we have enough money in our reserves, and yet at the same time we can give the money or prevent taking money
Yeah.
from our citizens.
Yeah, it's
Well,
a,
we were in Ohio this last week, just to kind of put a little perspective on that, and we were talking about the fact that our legislature, or you all, are working to reduce and ultimately eliminate. The state income tax without and the point is without increasing like sales tax, the rate of sales tax. We can get into the things that are counted for sales tax and things, but I think that's a fiscally responsible way to do it. And we were talking about it was what 6%. I mean,
exactly right.
what
Right,
4 years
4
ago.
years ago.
And now it's
we're
down to 4.5.
4.5.
Is it going to be 4?
It'll be four.
Four
Four
in
in
January.
January.
So right there, I mean that's a huge drop.
huge.
You're 30%. You're 33% less in taxes
Then
starting January
2017.
than you did in
It's-
2017.
That's
So
exactly right.
that's a phenomenal
It is.
accomplishment.
Yeah.
And so now we have to take a pause for 1 year on the decreases. We're not increasing.
but that's fiscally responsible.
That's fiscally
That's right.
responsible. We
That's
want to make sure we
exactly
can
right.
do these things
Yeah.
and do
Yeah.
them right. And so, maybe it takes another decade to get to zero.
That's right.
Maybe it takes 15 years to
Yeah.
get to 0. It's about the progress towards that.
That's
it's about
exactly
moving towards that.
Right, and to not cut any benefits or any opportunities, anything that we're responsible for
That's right.
as a government to provide.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I applaud you guys for the work you all have done. It's been phenomenal. And I'm super stoked to have you back and working in the legislature again next year, and then of course for the foreseeable future until you're ready to move to something else or to
different. Yeah.
and
I think
but you know what, I love the fact that you represent me.
well,
So,
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I will stand on the same shoulders on that. I'm proud of the work you've done, but obviously you're going to go into this race. Do you think you're going to get two things? Do you think you're going to get a competitor this time? And what do you think is going to be your biggest criticism that they would throw at you in the race that you're prepared for?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. obviously, anybody's eligible, and anyone is welcome to declare their candidacy.
Absolutely.
And I love.
I'm not saying on just the Republican Party, but
Absolutely.
even the Democrats. What do you think is the biggest thing they would try to come after you
I'm
with
not
that you've
real
taken as
sure.
criticism?
Yeah, I'm not real sure. One of the things that, as Mark talked to earlier, just with the election in November, I love knocking doors. I absolutely knocking doors because that gives me the opportunity to make sure that I'm meeting people on their doorstep. So I did that and to support our candidates. So it was very interesting, some of the things. One of the people actually said, well, Nancy, you've done a terrible job with making sure that our roads are maintained. We've got potholes everywhere. And I swear, I've took that and I've looked as I'm driving around, and the only potholes that I could really think of were in the restaurant areas.
Right. And those aren't county roads.
That's exactly.
They were private roads.
Yeah.
Those were private roads. So I'll still continue to absorb that.
Sure.
Absolutely, because it's very important for me to take that. And even though I might not have responded exactly like that person wanted me to, right? I still take those comments and try to absorb those and look.
Self-reflect.
Absolutely.
Right? Did we do everything we were supposed to do? Is there anything else that we could have done?
Sure.
That's what I love about you. Is like, you take that criticism and don't say, oh no, you just don't know what you're talking about. You move to hey, let's look at this.
Let's look at this.
Did we do something?
Absolutely.
Is there something else we could have done?
Right.
Speaking on that note, though, I know we did a show about this, and I talked about this, and I absolutely adore this about people, especially people who are tasked with a huge amount of responsibility, but you consume large amounts of information.
Absolutely.
Probably the most delved person into the it's not like you're waiting on the trusted staff to give you all the footnotes and then you take your talking points from somebody else. You're actually making your own talking points from the research you do.
That's exactly right.
I think your biggest challenge for me personally is the county's going to put in the steel mill. That's going to happen.
Right. Yep.
It's going to move forward, but over the next couple of years, it's really the funding that's going to go into the bridge that unites the two of us together between Indiana and Kentucky and our Breckenridge partners and the farmers of the Meade County community. I think that bridge is going to be a huge undertaking. And while we can get argumentative, we've seen it happen. Bless Sydney's heart. She's had to go through local roads, but what can I do? And what is the things I can control? What are the things I can't control?
Exactly right.
But I'll get involved. I got it. Even the guy that owns the private road, I hear you. This is really not my problem, but I'm going to take your voice somewhere. But here's what you're still left with. But this is a bigger problem. Don't you agree?
That's exactly right. Absolutely.
And it's if I can kind of add on a little
go.
bit, but it's so if you look at the private road situation, right?
Yeah.
Nancy didn't say, Nancy wouldn't say, oh, that's a private road. We
can't help you. See ya.
No, she goes and she would talk to the person that owns the road. She would put together, some discussions.
She went to the people that could help.
Exactly. And so, Mayor Brian Claycomb, he did the same thing in Brandenburg with the restaurants, and those have been all fixed. Those roads have all been updated, and they're going to be pulled in, I guess, to the city system. But it's the same type of thing, right? It's like that's what your representatives are supposed to do. That's what your elected officials are supposed to do. Not just, oh, that's not my problem. It's how do I help you fix that problem?
That's exactly right.
And put the right people together and find out what can the state do, what can the county do, what can the city do.
What are obstacles?
What are
the obstacals?
There are some things that you can't do because the Constitution says that these things are separated, or whether it's a city problem or a county problem. There's legalities that you have to migrate. You can't just say, okay, the county can't just say, okay, we're going to give a private entity $250,000 to fix their road.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
That's right.
Right.
That's exactly right.
So, besides all the cheerleading we're doing for you, what is your biggest problem coming in that you're going to focus on for the district and stuff going to the state? I say that the bridge is going to be a big problem, but you handle things.
Oh, they're going over to the
Indiana, where the mill's going to be. The granary. Not the mill, the granary. But, that road's going to be improved. I say that's a big project. That costs a lot of money. Of course, everybody knows that. And probably grants, federal aid. You never know what's going to come up.
It's got to go on a schedule.
But, yeah, it's got to go on a schedule. But you're coming in, you're declaring your stuff. You're like, woo, I'm running.
That's right.
I'm all geared up. I'm ready to go. It ain't my first rodeo. But, what are you really going to go after this year? You got legislation. You got the election. What are you going to go after?
Yeah, and I think the main thing is for us to make sure that our district gets the piece of the pie of the budget that we absolutely deserve.
Sure.
One of the things that
Big growth.
Yeah, one of the things that Mark said several years ago is that we have a hesitancy to ask for money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we need is we have to know specifically what we're going to use that money
Absolutely.
for, and then we go after and ask for that money. We've been very successful in getting extra money for like our infrastructure from a water perspective.
Sure.
That's obviously an issue. So Senator Meredith and I will continue to work on that. We've worked very closely with the Water District, and they've given us an excellent, absolutely excellent, spot on 20-year plan.
Absolutely.
That's
Good.
exactly what.
Yeah, you got to have
That's
a
what
plan.
happens. It
That's
can't be a 5-year.
Yeah,
No.
that's right.
You got to look for 20.
Absolutely.
Right. You got to
Yeah.
be 20 years in the future.
Right.
That's in a generation.
Yeah.
That's right. I said I want a 5 to 10-year plan, and I got even better, right? And it'll
Yeah.
be a plan that they'll continue to massage as our county
Absolutely.
continues to grow,
Yeah.
as our county continues to change. And that's exactly what we need to do to work together.
And that's how you control the growth, and you can make sure that you're prepared for not just try to catch up,
That's
but
right.
how do you stay
How
ahead
do
of the growth so that you
Absolutely.
know you can because the way you control growth is to say you're not going to be able to stymie it. You're not going to be able to stop growth.
That's right.
Growth is going to happen
We
whether
want it
you
to
want
grow.
it to, and we
want
do.
to grow. If we
And
don't
so-
grow, we die, right? And
Yeah.
we know that we want to.
And by putting a plan together, you can say, okay, well, this is where the industry is going to be. I used to play Sim City. Do y'all ever play that?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And you had to plan where was the industrial zone. People moved out of the houses that were next to the industrial zone, right? So you
Put in an
it's-
airport.
It's a
Just
real
kidding.
thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a real thing, and so you had to play around with those and put balance in. Same thing with that's real life. Real life is
Yeah.
about finding a
exactly
balance
right.
between what the farmers' needs are, what industrial needs are, what people's needs are for their families, and so that's you do that by putting together a plan and getting as many people get the input from as many people as you can.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I certainly don't want to get in there and try to do it myself. We have people
Sure.
at the local level.
No,
They
I'm in.
are the experts.
I think
for
they're doing
that.
a pretty good job
I
right
think
now in
they're
Meade
doing a
County.
Fabulous job.
We're all experts about kind of
In your own
understanding what
field.
we want,
That's right.
right?
That's exactly
What
right.
we feel we need for our families and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just need, I'm just glad we have people like you there to help remind us that, hey, some of those things are wants and some of those things
That's
are needs,
exactly
right?
Well, and a lot of things we can't necessarily, so like you said, it's a 20 to 30-year plan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not something that we can get immediately. It has to be a strategy, and what do we need, and when do we need it in order to be ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the lack of planning is what we see in the federal government because right now the only thing they're planning on is making sure that we have a bill for what they do today 30 years from now.
Right.
Right now, we want to see what would be work better is if I have a 30-year plan of how I'm going to get to this part, to this new journey that
Yeah.
we're going on over the next 30 years, and how I can make sure that we're ready to pay for that as it happens.
That's right.
If you don't, then the opposite's going to happen. You're going to get there, need something, and you're going to have to spend money that you don't have for 30 years.
Absolutely.
Now, the good news is in Kentucky, we're a balanced budget state, right?
That's exactly right.
We can't go borrow money,
Right, that's right.
which I think this
That's wonderful.
That's a very wonderful thing. It's one reason to live here in Kentucky is that you know that you're not saddling the.
Don't you just
future.
love the word commonwealth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't that ring a bell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It puts a little pride in my heart, right?
Yeah, right.
A little
I'm with
pride
you.
in my chest.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I think it's really important for us to make sure that the infrastructure that we have, it's available
Yep.
and it's reliable.
Absolutely.
And it's affordable.
Yes.
And so those are the things that we really rely on with every project, right?
That's right.
I think the thing that's very concerning for me, and it should be for all of us, is that a lot of the infrastructure that we have in place, and let me just use, for example, if you look at the state parks, for example, while we don't have a state park, but state parks.
Well, I mean, we have one that's close. I mean, we have a wildlife.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly,
because
and we have
Otter Creek.
Rough River that's right in
That's right.
county. So a lot of that infrastructure was put in place in the '60s.
Sure.
And anyone who's gone to visit those state parks, you can see where that it started to degrade. You talked about Otter Creek. We've had a lot of conversations regarding Otter Creek, and I've had some conversations recently with tourism. What do we do with Otter Creek?
Otter Creek could be a phenomenal landing spot for a draw.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I know personally in my future, I hope to bring in a lot of attention to Otter Creek.
right.
So.
Do we move that out of Fish and Wildlife, where there's really no mechanism for the state to assist with financially?
Right.
Is there a possibility for us to move that into the state park system? And the response has been, wow, Nancy, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
It was
that'd be great.
No way. It was, let's talk about that. So
Well, I
there's
mean,
people that are open
because I know that's
suggestions.
Fish and Wildlife. I mean, we've had discussions with this on Parks and
Sure.
Rec too. So it's a it's you know there's a lot of good about the Fish and Wildlife but they only want to run part of it. They don't want to run the whole thing. They like the fishing and the hunting portion of it, but when it comes to the amenities and things on the other side of the park,
That's right.
They don't want to deal with
Because truly there's no-
the campgrounds, the parks, things
Right.
like that.
Because truly there is no mechanism within their discipline
That's right.
in order for them to support
I would
that.
tell you with their range after being the marksmanship, the brigade CSM of over the United States Army marksmanship, you could fill in that campground if you just did a big 3-gun tournament and we got one of their guys to come out here. They would love to come complete with a gold
I
medalist.
think there's a lot of people that would
There's
still go
opportunities.
camping there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, how do you pay for it? How do you make a reservation?
Yeah.
And right, I think that when they do open it up, someone was telling me that they, I think what they do is they have a person that basically stays there and runs the park almost like a person, but they actually just have a campsite there or something. So
Yeah. So
Very cool.
we've got a lot of things, a lot of room for growth still,
Yeah.
a lot of room for
Isn't it nice when you look at the opportunities that
Yeah,
are available to us?
absolutely,
I know we're in a tough economy,
Right.
but it doesn't. I got it. The gas is high, but when you only got to drive inside of Meade County and there's something that exciting to get there and do with your family, I mean, literally, that's right across the street from me. The only problem I have with Otter Creek right now is I've tried to make a reservation. They still haven't returned my call, and so I can just drive my camper across the street instead of driving 500 miles to
you
go for a camping
You
trip.
just go online and make the reservation.
Now you can,
exactly
yeah,
right.
but
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities still here. One of the things that's very interesting to me too is that we talk about term limits all the time, and I think that there needs to be a term limit process, but the process in the Commonwealth of Kentucky is for the election process.
Yeah. I will say we had a great conversation on that with Brett Guthrie, and
Absolutely.
it actually comes down, and Mark actually swayed me on this a little bit
Okay,
because
good.
we've had I like to be the devil's advocate
Oh,
sometimes.
sure.
But the time it takes you to build up to it's not like you have a personal agenda, but the time it takes you to build up the message for the region you're defending or you're fighting for, it takes it. You can't just do it in one term.
That's right.
And it takes a lot of credibility and trust and rapport within the party. Who are you? You're just a flash in the pan. If we had those people going every 2 years, they'd all be fighting for what they want. Nobody'd ever be coming out of there with anything at the end of a tour.
Yeah.
So I can see the argument as to why, term limits, but where and when.
Sure.
You can't just do it you can only run one term.
Right.
That's not going to be enough. And I don't even know that 2 terms is enough because you're in your 3rd term.
Yeah, my third.
And
term,
we're
that's right.
seeing so much momentum now because of all the work it took to get to this point.
That's right.
Talk about that.
Yeah, that's the thing that's very interesting. Yeah. So I love that challenge though. From day one, I've actually walked in there and actually just tried to make sure that Meade County and Hardin County, Radcliffe is as properly represented. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Where did this go? There was money in the budget for Meade County. Where did that go? Put that back in there, right? Or whatever. We're not getting the equal distribution, so things like that, making sure that people are aware of that we are here.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
at the table for our piece, our allocation. The thing that was interesting to me is that last week I was in some conversations and I knew that I needed to represent the length of service. And so there's 100 representatives, and only 44 have been in office since 2019 or before. Okay? So, and of the, in 2019, in the regular session, 19 of them were elected before that. So my point is that there's the term limits, right? But then just to think that there's only 44 people that have been in office for 4 years, for 5 years.
Yeah.
That to me is just astounding.
That's a lot better than our current, I'm not going to go there, but you get it.
But my point is that that's a demonstration of how things are changing so quickly in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Well,
And even for our own party.
And for our own party, absolutely. And how it's important to have a little bit of stability. And so while that, that's kind of terrifying in some regards, but it's also comforting at the same time that there's at least 44 people, 19 of which have been there for some period of time.
Now, you were instrumental in bringing, and I mean, you played a part, Steve Meredith played a part, the state played a part, Nucor comes here, that's one of the biggest leading industries, obviously, and then supplementary businesses.
Sure.
We're going to continue to grow. I think we've been talking in roles that I've played in the county, especially with the Animal Control Advisory Board and stuff. 20 years, do you see us growing and double, 30,000? And if so, what type of business industry do you see us growing with in supplement, not just Nucor? I mean, there's a big industrial park down there. I know they're doing the huge battery plant. I heard Trump say, drill, baby, drill. I'm thinking, well, that thing's going to be shut down in 2 years.
Well,
They
they've
won't even
already-
finish
you
it.
know-
I'm just kidding.
balance,
Yeah.
right?
You know they've already cut it in half, right?
Yeah, it's got-
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Because they said there's two buildings, there's two plants there, but
Listen,
they took one and one is only going to be
I got
operated.
it. Here's my thought. I have to go on a sidebar. I think that the battery plant has a place in Kentucky. Here's
It
why.
does.
But I also believe, and you look at some of the innovations in engine the development. There's hydrogen now. Imagine if you had a multi-complex of hydrogen or even just the fossil fuels. I'm good with the fossil fuels. But the battery hybrid with a motor is going to save Americans as far as the amount of consumption we use and still make us the #1 distributor and still never run out. You know what I mean? It would be like, I forget how many years. I think we had a conversation. It was like 800 years. I think it was Brett was telling us.
Yeah, it was.
It's like 800 years. Okay, like it was only how many years ago before Christ? 2023. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, come on. 800 more years as a millennium. I would think in 800 years we would have some kind of fission or something that even takes us further into the future than to be wasting all of the resources to have this fight over. And I'm sorry, but we're not in what do you call it? Global warming.
Yeah.
I agreed with this thought the other night about nuclear warming. I think we should be worried about nuclear warming. But my point is that we're going to move forward.
Yep.
We're going to have industry coming in here. What do you see Meade County with industry?
Yeah, so this is the same thing that when we started this conversation about Nucor, and even here today, and even in
We're glad you're here, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The point is that the people in Meade County have an opportunity, and we can take advantage of this opportunity, and we can morph Meade County, and we can morph Radcliffe into whatever we want it to be.
That's right.
We can take advantage of those opportunities, or we can allow Hardin County and Jefferson County and all these other counties to take advantage of those opportunities. So it's completely up to us.
Yeah.
The opportunities can be presented, but if we decide to do nothing with those, that's fine too, right? And so, I think that it's very important for us to, as a local government, as a state government, as a federal government, to make sure that we're prepared, that we're not 20 years behind, that we're not 10 years behind, that we're not 3 years behind, that we're in advance of that, and that we continue to make sure that this community is healthy and thriving.
I think it's important for us to be thoughtful about what the future industry is, not just plan on how do we get that industry here. And one aspect of that is to make sure that we're training our kids and stuff
Absolutely.
for those jobs 20 years down the road. If you want something, if you want a different type of industry, then you need to start investing in towards that. And a lot of that's in training, education, and then putting the policies in place that will help build that'll help foster that. And so I think that's a big key. Like if you want not just like green energy and things like that, but I'm talking about just your what's coming, right? If you think that I'm like quantum computers and things like that, right now you have one area of the country, one or two areas of the country that are really building around those type of things, and educating the people around those things. Well, if we would invest that in our universities like Kentucky or Louisville or in one of our state, that we would put some money into that for educational purposes and research purposes, that we would be able to start building that here instead of just letting it be on the coast.
So it's funny you say that because, and Nancy, I don't know if you know this or not.
And maybe quantum computers. I'm just using it as an example.
So I know
the future.
Yeah. So I was down in Orlando last week on a business trip. Not this week, last week. I was at the ITSEC conference, and it's basically about technology and industry and all that other stuff. And it was all AR, VR, and AI. And I will tell you, 8 months out, they're picking the keynote speakers for all of these seminars. And about 2 weeks out, they're building their slides. So 8 weeks out, they're doing, basically an outline of what they are working on their research. And so they handpick, and then they come in, and then 2 weeks out, they're building a slide deck on where they're at with their research. And by the time you're hearing the research, it's already outdated.
It's already out there. Yeah.
It's already outdated.
Absolutely.
And one of the biggest things that's moving that research to be outdated is because of the quantum effect that AI is currently already having. And the number one topic was ChatGPT. That's
before it becomes it's on a quantum computer.
Well, I understand
quantum
that.
computers are going to revolutionize all of that.
I'm just going to tell you right now that AI is already internally developing its own quantumness, is what they're trying to explain. The sense that because of everybody asking it more questions, it's learning more perspectives. Does that make any sense to you?
Absolutely.
I mean, ChatGPT.
But it's not even just ChatGPT. Google now is using AI instead of doing the
ChatGPT.
Well, I got it. It's a background engine. But when each platform has a base server, like, when you log in, everybody has a different, most of people are Google, but if you're Microsoft, you're Bing, and then, or Yahoo or whatever, and they're all using the ChatGPT. So they're getting different perspectives from different subscribers. And
retaining all that information, the retention. That's exactly right.
I mean, they state
it's horrible.
They state currently that ChatGPT is not utilizing the data from your requests to learn.
No, right.
It only uses the internet, and they just what's actually available on the internet
from a certain date.
So if you ask it a question, you develop something on it. It states
that.
in their user document that it does not retain it and it does not use it to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so
it's retaining it, but it might not be using
storing. It's storing, and so it's already creating. And this is why I bring this up.
I mean, I think we'll have to take an offline conversation.
Yeah, but it's whatever you asked it, it's storing. And the reason why I'm bringing this up,
only in your account. It's not storing it.
I would beg to differ.
I would say for security purposes, it's being stored.
So here's the interesting thought, and the reason why I say this is now they're having to create the technology to ensure the copyright for AI-driven literature. In other words, there's a lot of free available information, and this is because of recent research, that colleges are now having to validate
That's right.
that it's not from
That's
AI,
exactly
or
right.
that the AI paper that you just wrote isn't being plagiarized from another AI paper and from another AI paper and from another AI paper and from another AI paper that they used to publish or copyright as an author. And it's an interesting dynamic because there's no laws to protect it.
That's exactly right.
And so I wonder, as we evolve electronically in the digital age, how much of that is going to be addressed in the near term. Obviously, I don't think that's going to be on the slate for this legislative process, but I do see it running its course here very soon as a topic of discussion for, especially for there's educational learning, but then there's also literary right, all that other stuff. So it's just an interesting space we're in right now.
Absolutely.
And it's
This is
evolving so
far
fast.
off of what we came
Exactly
to talk about.
right.
tonight.
It is,
Well,
but
I mean-
it's
But let me tell you
it's
something.
gonna affect.
You have just ticked in on my other love.
I geeked you. I know, but
Because
but it's coming fast.
I pay attention to this every.
but I'll go back to the battery
Absolutely,
plant.
me too.
We're all right. We're gonna keep half of the battery plant. We're gonna go with industry.
Well, I mean, the thing is that half the battery plant is their goal was to put this battery plant. They got
Yeah.
There's another one in there's
got
another
Tennessee.
big one in Ohio. There's another one in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
There's one in Detroit. I think that got. They
But
got-
to-
I
but
think
to
they-
your
I think
point,
they stopped
I
that
think
one.
so, yeah.
Mark is getting folks in the tech industry.
That's right.
In this state, teaching coding,
this is-
teaching writing, teaching just things that put us in the space for technological. Because the biggest thing that drives industry right now is the computer science behind the computer engineering. You know what I mean? The writing of
Well,
code.
I mean, yeah.
So,
Yes.
so to your
Well-
point, having more in tech.
What you have to really be careful about is AGI,
Yeah.
right? Because AGI is when it becomes self-learning,
Yeah, I got
right?
That's right.
Right now, it's learning from what's put on the internet, right? But when AGI is perfected, and they've made big steps here very recently towards this, that it will actually start self-learning, and once it self-learns, then it will it basically becomes autonomous to, and will start. It will become the technological leap will just be exponential, because it'll learn, it'll make new
Retain.
iterations, and
That's right.
it'll learn, and it'll make iterations, and it'll be phenomenal. As far as, and it's both. It's good. It can be good and bad.
That's exactly right.
It's
That's the part that's
right now.
right.
It's Schrodinger's cat, right? It's like you don't know whether it's going to be good or bad. It's both. Right now, it's both, and it's just
Depending
depends on
upon
whose
whose
going to
hands.
whose
Yep.
hands it ends
That's
up with.
exactly right.
And I don't think there's any real way to control it. I don't think there's any governmental way to control it.
Offline, but you got to look at the list of all of these seminars I sat in last week. It's scary. I'm just telling you, it's going to be scary.
Yep.
Even the VR and the AR environment and what AI can do to mod
Yeah.
those environments. But
Right.
listen,
But to your point, the geek in us love it. I mean, the geeks in us, we
yeah, I
love
got it.
that because I love technology. I love new things. I love to build
Sure.
things. But at the same time, we are, we're.
I mean, I
we're
would love to
wise
do a
enough.
show on this,
Yeah.
and just,
Absolutely.
but I could
Yeah.
spend.
well, not only
I
that,
could
but,
spend
but
4
my
hours
point
sitting here
too
just talking
is
about this stuff.
as industry comes into Kentucky, we need to also
as we're
have
affected.
the educational system that focuses on the technology, and that we're teaching our kids to learn that higher skill,
That's
which
right.
is in the coding area and learning
Yeah.
the engineers is the
But you don't,
But I'm so jealous. I'm
because
jealous.
ChatGPT will write the code for
Right.
you.
it can.
No, it does.
Yeah.
I got it, but we need but we don't need it to be self-learning so that we don't.
Well, ChatGPT is not self-learning. It's a response. That's a language model.
I hear you.
ChatGPT is a language model that is just very, very good.
Some of us still like a human to
Oh,
work with us.
yes.
They call them system administrators, not a chat GPT.
Yeah.
But to my point is that the way technology is going, Kentucky needs to be able to protect itself. And as we grow with industry in the county, which is what I would love to see, more industry, more growth, not just a bunch of restaurants.
Absolutely. Where we're
Supporting
producing
industry.
Something.
I
Yeah,
would
I mean,
like
all
to-
that to bundle all this together.
Please.
We're saying all of this because
Could be
we need
innovative.
to be ready for things like that, rather than just like you said, restaurants and
Yeah.
Those, we
our
gotta have
roads.
those, right?
We
gotta
if we
have
really
those.
want to have a control over our future, you have to be thinking about these things and how do we interact within that realm.
And making sure that the schools can expand
That's right.
in order to accommodate those types of growth.
And at the same time, how do we make sure that we keep God in it? How do we? Because this,
Boys are boys, girls are girls.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
I
we
mean,
just have to have morals and ethics built
exactly
into everything that we
so
have.
so that's what I mean is
I
that
know
we
that,
have to have we have to make sure that
Yeah.
there's room for the spiritual beyond just the physical, the capitalistic thing. So
because I love to make money and I love for people
Absolutely.
to make money.
I like money.
I like
I like money.
That's all right. But we've got to make sure that we keep our morals and ethics in that. Otherwise, AG, once it gets in a bad person's hand with a bad motivation, then it's a bad product, right? So, yeah, we have to keep those, make sure that we're ethical. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Nancy, I'm going to go to 4 minutes dedicated to you. Just go from the heart. This is your campaign. You're announcing it tonight right here on the Mead Truth. I want to know. I want our viewers to know who you are, why you're running, and not just your website pitch, but I want to hear the passion. You've been doing this for 2 terms. This is going for the third term.
Well, this will be going for the
Fourth term. I'm sorry,
That's
third
right.
term.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I was here
Right,
for the
fifth,
second term. Yeah, third term. So
Finish in the third.
give me from you. You're solo on the camera. Go.
Right. Well, first of all, I'm honored to have the opportunity to represent Meade and Hardin counties. It's been a thrill of my life, other than my children and my husband. So it's been great to be able to do that, to meet the people in
Right.
Meade County, to meet the people in Hardin
Right.
County, to find out what are the needs, to make sure that, and for my growth mentally and physically as
Yeah.
well, emotionally. It's been great just to take the conglomerate of all the different ideas that I have and to try to mesh those in and to work with the other 99 people in
Sure.
the House, as well as to work with Senator Meredith, because he's just a great person to work
Absolutely,
with.
100%.
Senator Deneen is top notch also. We love Kentucky. We love moving it forward. Senator Deneen asked me earlier today if I ever thought that we would become full-time legislators. And of course, we both laughed, because even though we're not paid as full-time legislators, we're full-time legislators. And we take Senator Meredith. He was the CEO for Litchfield Hospital for 30 years. I was a professional at UPS for 33 years. Senator Deneen has been in education for 30 years. You just take just us 3 people and our experiences and what we're able to give to Kentucky, to give back to Kentucky.
Absolutely.
And it's just been a thrill to be able to do that, and to try to envision what we want Kentucky to look like 20 to 30 years from now, and to attract other people from other states to be, the place to come to, not the place to leave, but the place to come to.
Right.
And the right kind of people. When I say that, the people that are, as Mark mentioned earlier, the people that want to keep God in their life, the people
Yeah.
that want to practice for morals and ethics, the people that want to contribute to the success of the United States. And that's where really where we're at and where we're heading for. We have that conversation all the time as the majority caucus. What do we want Kentucky to look like? It's our responsibility right now to form that, because sometimes we don't see the the results of our labor for 20 or 30 years, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we
Absolutely.
mold Kentucky into what we want it to be. Yep.
Second Amendment.
No, absolutely.
Drill,
always.
baby, drill. Kentucky coal.
Absolutely. And I and I don't make any bones about this. I am a strong advocate for women, children, and their families, because as far as I'm concerned, people are our greatest resource,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And if we don't take care of people in from conception to natural death, then we are not taking care of our greatest asset.
Pro-life.
Absolutely.
You are probably the only. Well, I wouldn't say you're not. You're not the only person. The thing I'm trying to say is, you're the person I know. You should be like the poster child for pro-life for Kentucky. But there are so many others that are out there that are
Absolutely.
just like you.
Absolutely.
I hate to give you the whole stage, but you are out there in charge. I mean, I would say if it was a battle, you're holding the flag and
Yeah.
leaning in, or either that you're the bugler. I don't know, but you're
Right.
getting, or you got that knife and saber pointed forward. You are just really the whole package when it comes to conservative conservatism in Kentucky and the values that I strongly hold. I know Mark does too. We share this
Absolutely.
conversation all the time. So I'm proud to see you going for this again. You've got my support. I know we're here to celebrate this today. Mark?
I mean, it's about time. I mean, we can I guess, can we write checks now? Or
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can go to her campaign at WinRed. You can also link and donate on her site at nancytate.com. And it's
Nancy Tate for Kentucky.
nancytateforkentucky.com. I'm super excited. Mark?
I am, well, it is the season.
It is the season.
And we have...
What a great early Christmas present.
I've been having
We
a good time.
opened this sucker up with what a
I mean,
gift.
this was a really good... I felt like this was a really good show. It went a little different direction than we thought, but hey, you know...
I don't think it did.
I mean, well...
There's a lot to talk about coming up. I mean, we just tapping
But
into
still,
it.
I didn't imagine it quite going the way it did, but...
You can't have a
it was
teaser
a
for
great-
the next show without
No,
leaving something to
that's
go,
true.
right?
But it's a demonstration of how we're capable of having those conversations.
Yeah.
regardless
I
of
guess.
Which platform they are.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's the thing is like the people in this room, we're just people.
That's
And
right.
we just like to have, we like to have these conversations. We talk. We can talk about technology. We can talk about politics. We can talk about religion. We have a lot of things in common. There's a lot of things we don't have in common, but there's a lot of things that we do have in common. And I think that's the nature of living in Meade County. And I think that we almost all care about people.
Sure.
We care about each other.
Care about our community,
It's right. We
definitely.
care about the people that are around us.
Yeah, I might be
not
a
just our
greasy-haired
own.
Texan from, Texas, but I am a Meade Countian. I'm a
Yeah.
registered voter in Meade County. I pay my taxes in the state of Kentucky, and I carry a God-loving Kentucky driver's license. So I'm proud to be a Kentuckian.
Well, we can't control the world, right? We can't control the world. We can't control
No.
what's happening at the national level, the world level. But if we just come back and take care of our community,
That's right.
then that's all really what our
Definitely can have an influence
our
in your
family and our
backyard, right?
community. That's exactly right.
Get involved.
That's right.
So,
Get involved.
so I guess, well, it's been another great show.
I'm excited.
I'm ready for Christmas.
I did talk
think
to
that,
Brett recently, and Nancy was there with me. I have a little announcement myself. I just took over as the president of the
that's
Association of the United States Army. at Fort Knox. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Brett was there. Nancy was there. It was an exciting moment. A little story, though, I was excited to tell, but the colonel that had first brought me to Fort Knox, I was the cheese boy of the year, I joke. I was a soldier of the year for Fort Irwin, and I was his regimental soldier of the year. And I was just a little old mechanic that beat out the infantry and the tankers, and he's a tanker colonel. He's a retired two-star general, Terry L. Tucker. And for him to be in the audience that night, to see me take over as president and a member of the community, and just know that I had landed at Fort Knox back in 1996 as a little old specialist, and then come back here as a retired command sergeant major, and then now be proud to be the president and preside over the chapter and do the great things that the Army's Association does, which is the Association of the United States Army, and then have you there, and you've been a part of that, my growth here locally, but this is community. This is my dedication to community. It's your dedication to community.
Right.
And I look forward to helping support you in any way I can from the chapter,
Thank you.
from the Meade Truth, and from any future endeavor we can have. So I'm super proud of you. Congratulations on this
Thank you.
journey, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Absolutely. Thank you all.
Everybody have a great night. Enjoy
Good
your
night.
happy holiday. We'll see you next week.
See you, everybody.
Mm-hmm.